whatever stage we're at in our parenting, we are a beginner. We have never been the parent of a newborn baby. We've never been the parent of a newborn baby and an older child until that day we do it. She described it as being on parallel tracks. That they're forming, they're going on their track and you're on yours, but you're each doing these challenges each day that you've each got huge new things to get used to. This isn't easy, and I think isn't easy is normal.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where we need to have some compassion.
Originally from the UK, Dr. Karen traded her dental scrubs for coaching tools. Now, she's an internationally recognized life coach, helping individuals and teams achieve their peak performance. With a background in orthodontics and certifications in whole person and trauma-informed coaching, Karen brings a unique perspective to her work. As co-founder of the Mint Door, alongside Dr. Laura Schwind, she is dedicated to helping clients unlock their full potential. Their holistic approach blends professional expertise with compassionate guidance, creating a supportive space for meaningful transformation. When she's not inspiring others, you can find Dr. Karen on a Pilates reformer, walking her dog Rascal, or spending time with her family. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Hey everybody, welcome to the 27th episode of the Story Project podcast. I'm your host, Joanna Scott, and I'm so excited to have a dear friend of mine, Dr. Karen Tindall, here with me today. Welcome, Karen.
Oh, thanks, Joanna. I'm so excited to be in the seat today, getting to chat to you.
I know, this is going to be so fun. Well, we've known each other for a few years now, and I think I first met you guys, I was trying to remember, it was either at a Do retreat, and then I got to know you better at National Mobile. I think it was maybe in that order.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was definitely Do first.
Okay. And then I had the privilege of working with you guys, with your coaching program with the Mint Door Docs, where you help women practice owners, even though I'm not a practice owner. I appreciate you taking me on. You work with them and help them learn just how to navigate life, right? And burnout, and really move towards holistic wellness, which I really connected with personally. So it's really pure magic what you and Dr. Laura Schwind do together. It's really very dynamic. And so I'm just excited for just this conversation today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
Well, before we dive into this episode, I always like to ask a few rapid fire table talk questions. Okay. And Karen doesn't know what these are, and they're not too scary. So,
okay.
Okay. All right.
Let's go.
What's your favorite sleeping position?
On my side. If my shoulder can bear it, on my side.
Same, totally. Which airline do you think is best?
American Airlines, because it's the one that flies out of my local airport.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've been to Arkansas plenty, and you always fly American to get out there.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the best movie villain ever created?
Best movie villain. The most scary movie villain, if you could describe a villain as being scary, was the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know if you've ever seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's a very much British childhood classic from way before even we were born. It was a film, it was a movie, but he was just so scary that he must be, for me, the ultimate villain, because I'd be still scared of him now.
Okay. Actually sounds really scary and terrifying. I used to love scary movies, and then now I kind of have to gauge whether I can handle it, whether it's I don't know, whether it's like too much. So maybe that's
I agree. I filter what I watch, that it probably needs to be happy.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Last one. If you won an expensive trip somewhere, what destination would you choose?
If I won a trip, I think it would be New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Because I've been to Australia many years ago, and I just see pictures of New Zealand with the glaciers and the lakes and the color of that water. And I just think it would be my kind of place.
Yeah, yes. I have not been to New Zealand, but we have some team members that have, and they just rave about it. I have on my vision board Switzerland, so I would love to go to Switzerland. So,
100%. 100. We used to take a lot of family holidays when I was a child in Switzerland.
okay.
We would go for 2 weeks every summer, two different places, and I just have such fond memories of it that definitely Switzerland.
Yeah.
No.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay. Well, so I'm excited to talk with you about a very relevant topic in both of our lives. And I know that I have so many friends and there are so many families that are going through this and dealing with this right now. That being the transition of being moms and parents of kids who are, in college and freshmen in college, and whether you're dealing with, being a complete empty nester and your home is empty, or like, in my case, I still have a daughter, in high school. It's a big conversation. It's a very relevant one, and there's a lot that we're gonna kind of dive into. So, first, let's talk personal details of and give our audience a little background um, about your family. And I know one common similarity between both of us is that we are both married to guys named Josh. How cool is
Yep. We each have a Josh.
yeah. So it's always easy when we're talking. I'll never forget your husband's name because how could I? So, but where are you guys based? And tell me just a little bit about your family. I know you have a cute dog and
Yeah. So there are the four of us. Me, my Josh, and Isabel, my oldest daughter, who's coming up for 21, and Kate, my youngest, who is 18. And we do have our favorite dog, Rascal, who lives with us too. And we live in Bentonville in Northwest Arkansas. So my accent will confuse people as to where I'm from, but
it's
we have
not
been
Southern, is it?
not Southern. Although somebody told me the other week, somebody I met maybe 6, 7 years ago, oh, you've lost your English accent. You are sounding more Southern. So I didn't know whether to be worried or flattered, but I still sound very English. We've been here for nearly 9 years, and really love living in the United States. I think it's the weather, some of it that keeps us here, just the sunny days and short winters in Arkansas that we get. So that's us, and we're here because Josh works for Walmart, and we're very happy in this kind of lovely little bubble that we live in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, that's so great. I actually
Mhm.
forgot to mention, unless I did recently, but my parents just got back from a trip, their very first trip ever to England.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, and they just kind of celebrated, 50 years together, retirement, just everything. And it was the trip of their life. Like they had the best time. I mean, I actually was like, Mom, I feel like you should be British and move there. Like she was in heaven. So that was just really exciting to hear all the stories, and they were like documenting it every day. So we got to see all the historical places and
Oh,
everything.
wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, you and I have just both kind of went through a huge milestone. You moved
Hmm.
your youngest Kate into college, um,
Hmm.
and I just moved my son Caden into college at Cincinnati, just about 2 hours away from us. And it's easy to say it's an emotional roller coaster, right? Highs and lows. Tell us a little bit of just about both your daughters, just kind of where they're based as far as like
Yeah.
colleges.
So my eldest Isabel, she's at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
Okay.
So that is, if you were to drive it, probably about 17 hours drive from home. Kate is down the road at the University of Arkansas. So she's probably 35 minutes from home. So two really different situations that I have one child who is out of state a very long way away, and I have to be the out of state parent, and I have one who is in state closer by. So two very different experiences of navigating, sending them off to college, but there are some similarities to both situations.
That's kind of wild. So it would be a 17-hour drive to go see
Mhm.
Isabel
Yeah.
and 35 minutes to see Kate.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's major. Like, I feel like that would just be tug of war on my heart. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can get to my one kid this fast and not the other one.
I think Isabel feels it when Kate will come home just for the afternoon sometimes, and Isabel's just like, all I would want to do in the world is just pop home for the afternoon.
Yeah.
And she can't, and it's, weeks and weeks before we get to see her again. So
Right. So since you had been through this already with Isabel moving her out, what were your emotions like leading up to moving Kate in? Was it kind of like, hey, I've already been there? Did you feel more prepared? Or was it like kind of starting all over with just kind of, it feels like grieving, really. At least it did to
Yeah.
me.
I would say it was interesting because first time round, and I don't know if you found this, but I was anticipating this months out. There could be little things in senior year, those moments when it would really make you reflect of like, oh my gosh, my child's going to be gone and they're not going to be here. And I could have a few tears quietly and then get on. And it felt like I was processing it from a much earlier point first time round.
Mm.
Second time round, my brain almost didn't let me overly worry
Mm.
in advance. But that moment when they've gone is still exactly the same, whether they're 35 minutes away or 17 hours.
Yeah.
And that's when it got really real for me when Kate had gone.
Yeah.
She wasn't at home anymore. And yeah, I thought, oh gosh, this is easier. That was before that point where I dropped her off. I thought this is easier second time round. It definitely is. But it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me, because you're equally attached to, it's not like, I mean, I don't know, maybe some parents have favorite children, but I mean, mine are like, your heart is
Yeah.
just is equally, you love both of them equally. And
Yeah.
it's just divided, 50-50 that way. So yeah, that's exactly, I think, how it would be for me when I move Aaliyah in. I would say I was really surprised at how during Caden's senior year, how all of a sudden I would be hit with emotion and out of nowhere, something would just trigger a thought or
Mhm.
memory and I had this experience like, a few months leading up to him, graduating. And I really started probably every couple weeks processing some pretty heavy
Mhm.
emotion and getting my tears out. And, there was one summer, during the summer into summer night, I was on the patio and I was like, it finally hit me. He's not going to be here every day. He's going to be gone. And I was like on the phone, just bawling my eyes out with my mom, which obviously felt really good. I needed to like get it out. But right after we moved Kaden in, I was on a walk and you and I were texting, and I think you were checking in on me. And you shared an episode of the Mel Robbins podcast called The Ultimate Advice for Your Next Chapter After You
Mhm.
Sleep Home. And it was a game changer. Like I have listened to that, I think 3 times. And it's really helped me just clearly articulate and process some of what I have been, walking through. And I want to begin by talking about one truth that Mel addresses,
Mhm.
which is, she says it so brilliantly, the massive change that we're going through as parents, as mothers, and the emotion attached to it is a mentally healthy response to a major life transition. So basically, feeling sad or lonely or not knowing what to do with our time, it's totally normal. And she basically says, again, she repeated it in the podcast, it's a mentally healthy response to a major
Mhm.
life transition. How does that statement sit with you when you hear that?
Like you, that podcast I have kept going back to, and I have sent it to a good number of people when they've had moments of when they've been wobbling. I think it's so true because I have always told myself that whatever stage we're at in our parenting, we are a beginner.
Mm.
We have never been the parent of a newborn baby. We've never been the parent of a newborn baby and an older child until that day we do it. And that each day is different. And as we've learned from parenting for 18 plus whatever years, you're never the expert because each day is different. And I think this is just one of those things that completely normal to have an emotional, sometimes physical, how you feel it, reaction to a situation, as she describes it as, and you said, as a big life event. It isn't normal. We're having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation, and that's abnormal in our day to day. And I loved how in that podcast she described how, as much as your children, she described it as being on parallel tracks,
Mhm.
that they're forming, they're going on their track and you're on yours, but you're each over doing these challenges each day that you've each got huge new things to get used to.
Yeah.
So as much as when a child, and you do hear of students who go off to college who do have a hard time in the first year. I think the first year for most people is not easy.
Yeah.
And when I speak and hear of other students from school who are going through going through this, and I hear their experiences, I'm like, it does reinforce this isn't easy. And I think isn't easy is normal.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where we need to have some compassion in the fact that this is a major life change that
Yeah.
we didn't set off into the world. I don't know about you. I definitely didn't saying, hey, Josh, you know what? Let's have an adult. We never set out into the world with
Right.
the goal of having an adult. Yes, the goal is to bring them up to become a healthy, self-sufficient, confident, wonderful person. But you never set off with that goal to, I want an 18-year-old
Totally.
who's not going to be around, because what was the point? You wanted to be a parent.
Right. Desperately. Yeah.
So for me, it's that, okay, I'm still a parent, and my girls say, oh, you're still a parent, you're still a mum, but it's that everyday piece
Yeah.
where you're no longer part, which is the big bit of getting used to.
I think that's such a great point that you mentioned is it is parallel tracks. It's, not just us going through this transition or change. It's also our kid,
Hmm.
our basically adult kid in college.
Hmm.
And they're experiencing all kinds of highs and lows and so many mixed emotions right along with us. So I think that perspective has helped me come alongside Caden, knowing that he has his own bucket of emotions and things that he's processing
Hmm.
right along, what I'm processing and dealing with. And I think it's probably safe to say for me, when I heard Mel say that, it felt like permission to accept where I am.
Yeah.
It felt like permission to not be okay for a season or for a moment, and to be able to take
Hmm.
my time and not rush everything going on inside my heart, and let myself, take time with it and heal.
Yeah. That permission piece is huge.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
All right. So this is one thing I've been dying to talk to you about. And one of the hardest parts of this transition for me has been the constant question that I get from typically not family. When family ask it, it's a little bit different, we're close friends, but from just kind of well-meaning acquaintances. And it's the whole question of how are you doing with your child or your son or daughter being gone? It's how are you doing with Caden being out of the house?
Hmm.
When you're right in the middle of all of that emotion and you get bombarded with that question, like for example, I was at an event. This was it was before he graduated, and I was at the height of, I knew it was like within 2 weeks, sorry, it was after he graduated and he had not moved out yet. So I
Hmm.
knew it was, those days were numbered, and everybody was asking me. People that like were DMing me, and I felt like it was like every day. And so that question for me has been very emotionally charged. And I've struggled with the fact that I love being authentic and vulnerable, but I actually don't know that the person on the other end can handle the truth.
Hmm.
So, how have you responded to this question when you have been really struggling on the inside?
I love how you say you love being authentic, because that for me is the basis of social relationships, and they're the ones that I love the most, are the ones where I can be truly openly authentic as to who I am and what I'm feeling. However, this is one question. If it wasn't a close friend, I have not told the truth. Because like you're saying, the person on the other end isn't ex doesn't I don't know what answer they want
Yeah,
in this situation,
yeah.
because either they're someone who's been through it before and they know that it's hard,
Mhm.
or there's somebody maybe who is going to go through it and they're just testing the water to see how bad is it.
Yeah.
But I think it's
They don't know. There have been times I look at them and I just go, you and I are not BFFs or besties. And I don't actually, and you're an awesome person, I'm sure, but I don't know the intricacies of what's going on in your life. And you really don't know mine, except that
yeah.
I put my world on social. So I've talked about it. So I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. I had to accept, I have shared with the world on social media that my son is graduating.
Hmm.
And part of that has been very healthy and has helped me kind of find closure with those last moments, posting things, I would say all moms of seniors do this, right? You post all the things, senior week, it's like, constantly. So I sometimes would just go like, do you not like have anything else to talk to me about?
Answer the question and then move along. I
Yeah.
think for me, I probably just had a stock answer of, oh, it's going to be different. The house will be quiet. And I probably took it away from my feeling and just put it on the actual practical of what it will look like. So, and I would maybe always diffuse it with, oh, well, it's a good job Josh and I really like each other. That's probably what would come out, because we do really like each other, and
Yeah.
that's why part of this is it's a positive because we have that. I couldn't imagine what it would be like if you didn't really like your partner,
Right.
that your children were going and you were on your own. But yeah, I just diffused it and almost like let's move along.
Yeah. That's
Different
excellent.
different topic.
That's really good. I think my husband, Josh, he said, Joanna, you're so open, but he said, not everyone has to know. Don't let them straight to your heart. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, especially when you're struggling or dealing with something and you haven't put it out there into the world and you're like having this conversation with you, I've moved forward quite a bit since I was like really, really down with Kate and moving
Yeah.
out. Which is why you and I are like not bawling right now, because
I don't even have tissues on the desk.
I have like one, but
Oh, then maybe there's one.
uh, but yeah, I think that also felt really comforting for me to know, as you're saying, finding some type of maybe more objective answer rather than a super, super vulnerable answer.
Mhm.
Like giving ourselves permission for that being okay.
Yeah. I think maybe in there as well is for me to be able to give more of a generic answer to something. I found that being in the dental profession, being the you almost you did put there's an element of wearing a mask.
Mm.
And I think dentists particularly, and if dentists are listening to this, they will understand that you do wear the mask because nobody wants to think that their dentist is fragile, not happy, not feeling great, whatever. So you do have that, hi, how are you? And you're like, oh, I'm great. So it used to be my default setting, until I kind of understood that that's what I did. So maybe there's an element that I was practiced at putting the mask on.
Yeah. Well, for however many years you practiced and everyone else even listening, I
Mhm.
mean, that's a lot of rehearsal
Yeah,
doing.
it's a
Yeah.
lot. And even my closest friends, I would sometimes, and this isn't specifically to a college situation, but I think it could equally apply. They would always see me as the person who was in control, who had it all together, who found it simple, nothing was difficult, and nothing really stressed me. Well, that's not true. But my mask was so good that even some I have one closest friend who can probably see past that mask. But my other friends would just assume she's fine, she can cope. And it's that practice.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's really very fascinating. And I'm sure a lot of the women listening who are
Mhm.
practice owners can identify with
Yeah.
that. And it also makes me think like, you know, that mask, I'm sure serves you professionally, so that you are by mask, it doesn't mean, I mean, if we dive deep for a moment in that, it doesn't mean that you're being like inauthentic. It just means that you are being professional and you're still
Mhm.
caring and warm with your patients but maybe you're not opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah, exactly. Your patients want to know that you're the expert, that they can have confidence in who you are and what you're doing that day.
Right.
And there's some vulnerability there, but yeah, not learning not to overshare probably
Yeah,
is something that you practice.
that's really good. Okay. So second takeaway, it's okay to not share everything with everyone that we're going through.
Yeah.
Okay. That's liberating to me.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about finding new rhythms. In the podcast we've mentioned with Mel, she talks about the fact that time doesn't change things. It's what we do with that time that changes things. And our kids, have launched into this very exciting new chapter. And now it's our turn to launch into our own new chapter, where we can thrive in new ways. And, one huge difference that hits you when regarding time, when they are in their senior year, even junior year, it's a lot of last last moments. It's last prom, last volleyball game. And didn't Kate play volleyball as well?
Yes. Yep. She was
Yeah.
volleyball. Yeah. All the way through. Yeah.
So same with Kaden. So last volleyball game, right? And they, graduation ceremony and party and senior walk and all those things. And then you switch to all the first moments, first college visits, first applications, first acceptance letters. And then once they get accepted, you switch into prepping for their dorm or apartment move, and getting everything ready for that. And then all of a sudden, everything just comes to a screeching halt. And it's like the world stops. You move them in, you drop them off, you do tearful goodbyes, and you leave. And you're just kind of looking at your husband, your partner, like, what just happened? So how did it feel for you when she was finally moved in, Kate? Did you experience relief, sadness? What do I do with my extra time? What were your first kind of emotions?
I think initially for me, it was that I felt a bit lonely. Not that Kate loved going out and about. She had a job, she was at school, she was busy. So she wasn't always at home, but I work from home mostly, and I was on my own for a large portion of the day. And what I did is I lost the time punctuation in my day. So I was never a mum that would stay in bed whilst my kids got up in the morning and went to school. I would get up too because they're getting, so it was like, we're in this together. If you've got to get up, I'll get up.
Yeah.
So I'd get up. I still get up early in the morning, but then I've lost that afternoon piece. Like, even if there was a volleyball game or even if there was volleyball practice, I know that she would be coming through the door. And I lost time punctuation and I was on my own. So it felt lonely to me to start off with. And there was definitely room to then think, well, what can I do for me?
Yeah.
For me, I love talking to people, and I talk over Zoom to most people during the day. But the one piece that I'm lacking maybe is face-to-face contact with people. So I have a few very good dog walking friends, and I have been very intentional about walking multiple days a week. Rascal's getting much longer walks now. So I walk with somebody probably nearly every morning. And then I decided that I needed a hobby or something where I could actually see people. So my newest hobby stroke, kind of, we could call it part-time job, is that I now am a substitute teacher at school.
Oh,
So I have gone back to the school that both my girls were at, and I now sub there. Oh no, it's a random schedule, but Josh says when he gets home on the days that I've been there, he can tell the difference that I've been with people during the day rather than if I've been on my own.
I love that. My gosh, I had no idea. That's so incredible. I would love for you to be my teacher myself.
Hopefully a fun sub.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Well, one of the aspects of working with women practice owners that you have shared with me is just the element of time management and really helping them dial that in. And in my coaching work with you, that was something that we immediately addressed. For me, I feel like I weave in and out of seasons of burnout more often than I would like to admit. I'm getting better, but it's still like my, kind of working, filling any extra time with work is my default, or being productive. So how can we be careful during this time of, let's say we have technically this gift of extra time, to not just fill it with things that are centered around productivity and work?
I think it's delving into what fills your cup, because I would probably put a guess on is that your children fill your cup. And even if they're not home for huge periods of time when they're in high school and senior year, they're still there. And you get that from them, that interaction. But what what are the things that really matter? What are your values? And then be more intentional of that time of how do I fill my time to keep those values being upheld. And I think for me, it was one of my values is being with people, being around people. So that's why I've thought, well, the substitute teaching was a cool way to sort of give back to the school and provide me with something fun to do. And so that does check the boxes. I have to be careful though now that before you would have, and I don't know if you agree that you would have, there'd be a set time, like I'm not going to work after, I don't know, say 3:30 because I know that they're going to be home. Well,
Yes.
now I can easily work past
Yeah.
3:30 because
Yeah.
nobody's coming home.
Mhm.
But that also you'll benefit from the extra flexibility that maybe I'm going to do this today. I'm not going to work the early afternoon hours. I'm going to go do some errands and then I'm going to work when I get back. So I may work the later shift, but I'm trying then not to do the whole thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you see it? Do you
Mhm.
see that could work?
Yeah, I think it could. I think that actually, Josh, if I could speak for him as well, I think we both have found like if Aaliyah has been gone or on like a retreat weekend or something, we're like, oh my gosh, it's just you and I. We can just go in our offices and work and nobody will miss, you know what I mean? It's like your kids, they, not that him and I don't like to hang out, but we also work together growing this
Yeah.
agency, leading it. So it's just a very unique dynamic. We caught ourselves like, wait a minute, we're kind of like slipping some boundaries that we've worked really hard to put into place. I've noticed we've lessened up on
Mm-hmm.
now that Kaden is not here. And if Aaliyah's gone, all of a sudden we're 24/7 talking work or problem solving or right. And it's all about the business. And I notice we're doing that. I'm just showing, I'm, giving both of us some grace right now as we just kind of
Yeah.
like the first thing is you kind of have to recognize, oh, this is happening. And
Yeah.
then go, oh, I don't want to, there's purpose to not working 24/7
Mm-hmm.
and to filling our cup, self-care, all those things. And so making sure that, how I'm spending my time, that I'm fitting those things in intentionally.
Yeah, I think it's the being intentional. So I am talking to you today. I moved my office upstairs and it was an interesting one because we've got a Peloton bike downstairs. Josh got a Concept 2 rowing machine. He left one in England when we left and he's always wanted another. So he got his Concept 2 and he had in the garage and he's rowing in the garage in the ridiculous heat in the summer. And I thought it would be kind to let him into the house. And he could have it in my office because I don't want him rowing on carpet upstairs.
Yeah.
So that was the decision to come up here. But I did talk it through with one of my very good friends who she's a coach as well. And on our dog walk, I said, look, can I have 10 minutes for you to coach me about this? And there's one part that she kind of challenged me about is the fact that if I am working more often and my office is downstairs, it's really easy for me to pop into my office just to sit down at my computer and have a look at it. And then I can then go back eventually to doing what I was doing. Now, because my computer is upstairs, it is a really good distinction between work and home.
Yeah.
And when I go down those stairs, I'm kind of leaving work, whether it's for lunch or whether I'm leaving work in the evening, that it's made it harder for me to sit down and just say, oh, I'll just quickly do
Yeah.
whatever small job needed to be done. So
Yeah. Yeah. Something I think, I used to always work out in the morning, and then Josh has always had afternoon workouts, usually 4:30. So for whatever reason, I've switched from like Orange Theory to like more strength training and walking. And so now I think the way I'm ending my day is I go and I get to like de-stress by working out. And
mhm.
it's kind of like after that, I'm done working. Like if you see me working out, I've done all I can do for that day, you
Yeah,
know? And then, so that's kind of been something that both he and I now sync up on is like, we're working at the end of the day, whereas normally it was like, so, yeah, I think it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're just
You're
like
getting
really,
you're getting a nice kind of routine already set.
right.
So when you do become just the two of you at home, you'll already have these healthy routines
Hmm.
set in that it will be maybe simpler. Not
Right.
emotionally simpler, but simpler on a
Yeah.
practical level.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think the goal, from just that conversation is finding harmony, um, after your kid moves to college and finding harmony with your work, that whole work-life balance thing. I think I recently have really loved referring to it, and I heard a friend talk about it in a different way, and it was harmony. There's really no such
Mhm.
thing, I think, in our culture and society as balance. But there is harmony between your
Mhm.
priorities and different seasons and how we're spending our time. And so I think it takes some of the pressure off that I'm not doing it perfectly. Whereas
Mhm.
if I'm my analogy for trying to find balance in my life, and this is how I felt my whole life, is I'm standing on a little tugboat in the ocean. And I'm just basically, and there's a huge storm, and I'm trying not to fall in. And it's nearly impossible. And of course,
Mhm.
I've fallen over and over because that little tugboat isn't meant to be in the ocean. It's not built for it.
Yeah.
But I think that harmony, that I feel just even out of the essence of the word, a lot of grace. And it just feels a little lighter and probably a little more inspiring to go, well, I know what my values are and I know what my priorities, what I want them to be,
Mhm.
how I spend my time. And so how can I, in a harmonious way, approach looking at how I'm spending my time through that lens?
Yeah. I think the word balance, it kind of implies 50-50. Uh,
Exactly.
and I did some research on it a couple of years ago because I gave a speech on it. And it comes from the time when men worked from basically 9 till 5. And then they were at home for a huge number of hours as well. And it was kind of 50-50 work, play. Well, now lives are so complicated. Women work. We're not just at home all day. That the concept of work-life balance is not a modern definition by any sense, really. Like you're saying, it's work-life harmony. I like work-life synergy because how can the two help each other? And I think understanding that it's not fixed. Like what works for you on Wednesday may not be Friday's synergy, harmony, whatever it is, because it ebbs and flows. What's good for you in this, end quarter of the year may not work next year. And allowing us to change as life changes. And if I work a little bit extra today, that's fine because that was needed. But equally, if tomorrow I take a bit more time for myself, that's okay too, because we just go through this ebb and flow
Yeah.
of where life needs to be for that particular day
Yeah.
or time.
I love that so much.
Mhm.
I love synergy and harmony way over
Mm.
the word
Yeah,
balance.
balance is just,
It's really been overused. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's,
juggle,
yes, yeah.
juggle basically, work life juggle. It
Well,
is.
looking forward, what are you most excited for, personally, just in this next chapter, both for yourself and for your youngest Kate? Of course, you could share about Isabel as well, but
Yeah.
obviously you just moved in.
I, so for Kate, I'll start with her. And it's always easier to think about your children than it is for you. And just as a quick aside, I do like this gratitude before I go to bed every night as I close my eyes. I think, say three things that I'm grateful for. Now, I did notice that the three things that I was saying I was grateful for, I'd be saying, Isabel had a great day. Kate had lunch with friends. All the things that I was grateful for was for my children.
Mm.
So I'm now trying to be grateful. I do three things and I'm allowed three for my children, but then I have to find three for me, as well as. But for Kate, really just seeing her settle into, I mean, it's exciting to see them having an adult life
Yeah,
and settling in and doing well at it. And then seeing them face challenges and being able to navigate that and knowing that if she has a question or she needs help, she knows where to find me or us. So I think that's exciting, is seeing this transition for them going from a high school student to being an adult. For me and Josh, what I'm excited about is we get a lot of quality time together now, just the two of us. And we love traveling and doing things like that. And just a couple of weeks ago, just very last minute, spur of the moment, we spent our American airline points on flights to Japan next year.
Oh,
So, but we just thought, hey, we play the game of where can we spend our points? Where could we go? What could we do? And these Japan flights came up, and we were thought, yeah, like
oh,
there's no reason why we shouldn't go.
right. Okay.
Nobody's on, like, everybody's in school.
Mhm.
Everybody is good. Everybody, we're at a time where we can go. Let's go. So we're going to Japan next year, which will be a huge adventure. And we both love traveling, so that will be super fun. Yeah. What about for you?
Hmm. Um, for Kaden, you're right. It is much easier to think about your kids first. I think they're on our brains more than we ever think about our
Default
kids.
setting, child first.
I think I'm really proud of him. Kaden is taking all the hard courses right at, his first semester.
Mhm.
He's, majoring in biology. So he's got, chemistry, biology, labs, calc, everything. And the kid just does not complain. I don't know. He is just figuring it out. He's working his butt off. He's studying, doing mock tests, talking with
Mhm.
professors when he needs to. And he is planning on, going into dentistry. And so he's got 8 years ahead of him,
Mm.
better him than me. But he's just, uh, and I wouldn't feel less proud if he was homesick, because it really has nothing to do with that. I just think that it's been very affirming for me to see him step into this chapter, and he's been ready for it.
Mhm.
And I saw this quote, and I hope I don't butcher it, but it was a mom hugging her kid who was, moving into college, and it was something to the effect of, the hardest part of teaching your kids independence is allowing yourself to accept that you've been successful. And I was just, and it was the essence of that. It might have been a little different, but it's hard for us to accept that we've raised successfully independent kids,
Mm.
because it can be so hard to let go.
It can be,
So
I think even as college goes on, I look at Isabel now and she's in her third year. So she'll have 1 year left after this. I'm just like, where did that time go? But then being equally proud of the two of them, that they're both navigating this process of being adults and succeeding at what they're doing
yeah,
and doing a good job.
yeah,
And knowing that a good job, like you're saying, like the homesickness is, not being proud because he's not homesick, but sometimes a good job is overcoming the challenge,
hmm,
knowing where to look for the answer,
yeah,
going to see the professor, and knowing that they're doing that and they don't need my help to do it,
yeah,
whilst still I have to consciously tell myself, this isn't your problem to solve, Karen.
yeah. Oh yeah,
You have to let them solve it themselves, because even in this short space of time that Kate's been away, if I try to solve a problem, it doesn't go well. It needs to be solved by them. And I need to learn that.
so true. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's so tempting. As a parent, how can you not want to help your child?
Yeah, because you go 18 years, and that's our role. That's really,
Yeah.
to some extent, and obviously with independence, we're supposed to be pushing them to figure things out on their own,
Mhm.
not always coming up
Yeah.
with a solution. And I think inside and outside of dentistry, it's very hard. Moms are, on the whole, I would say, major problem solvers.
Mhm.
And just our default is to go immediately to, and I would say most of the women I'm surrounded with and know or have this bias for action. And so we're constantly just like,
Mhm.
whatever it is going on with your kid, we're like super women.
Yeah.
Like, we're super moms, right? Or we approach every problem that way. But like, kind of, yeah, stepping back, and even with Aaliyah, it's helped me go, well, how would you solve this?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm asking her different questions, realizing she has to switch into that independent
Yeah. Was
mindset.
that in the same Mel Robbins podcast when she said, when you asked them, what do you think you should do?
It might have been,
When
yeah.
they come to you with that
Yeah,
problem and they, and whatever, and you're ready to come in with the
yes,
solution,
yes,
pause, stop and say, what do you want to do? Or what do you
right.
think you should do? And I think that is, that is an amazing, even just it's so simple,
Yeah, it's powerful.
but just don't jump in. And
Right,
I have to remind myself that.
right. I think it was in that same podcast that
Yeah.
she was talking about her son,
Yeah.
with some like, uh, vaccination forms or something with
Yeah, that was it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, horrendous to figure out on the like whatever college portal you're looking at. I was like, oh my gosh. So, Karen, thank you so much just today for your openness and wisdom. And this has been such a big transition for both of us. And I just know that I hope that this conversation and insights that have been shared today really resonate with all of the moms and women that are dealing, in the same spot that we are. Do you
Yeah.
have any thoughts, kind of final thoughts or advice for parents who are just beginning this journey or who have kids that are, in their junior, senior year?
My thoughts for people who are at the beginning of this journey, maybe their child is in, like a freshman in high school, and they're starting to think of these things. One would be, if your child wants to talk with you, whatever time it is, it may be, and it typically will be, 10 o'clock at night, you've got your pajamas on and you're just about to switch the light off, or you have switched the light off, and then somebody comes downstairs and says, hey, my advice is switch that light back on and talk with them, because those moments are so precious. And if they're wanting to talk, talk, because very, very quickly they're not in your house to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
give them that time when they're asking for it, would be my advice.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing you could have said, and so true. I'd love our audience to hear just anything upcoming that's fun that is coming up, either for just you personally or for the mentor doctors, or anything you guys have going on.
Exciting stuff. Well, exciting, we'll be going to the Do Retreat in November.
Yes, yes.
So that is our favorite event of the year. So that will be is a not miss for us. So we're really excited to go there and meet up with all the do's. And we're just enjoying at the moment, spreading our wings a little bit and helping not only dentists and their teams, but we're expanding our reach into other areas of business as well, and just really just supporting teams with their total well-being, as well as the individuals in those teams and the leaders of those teams, because we really have found that we love working with those teams who are high achievers,
Mhm.
and they are doing really great work. We want to be that little bit extra that makes them even better.
Yeah.
And that's how we're working with teams at the moment, is kind of elevating amazing and incredible places to be even better.
Yeah.
So that's the excitement for us right now.
That's awesome. Well, and you're going to be coming to Columbus, Ohio in April of
Yeah,
next
we're so
year and
excited.
working with our entire team, which at that point could be nearly 50 people. And so we're just so pumped, and we're completely honored to have you guys come and work one-on-one with individuals on our team, but also just on the whole, and do a full day session.
Yeah,
And,
we're excited.
and we're also thankful that, we are within dentistry, obviously, but we're not dentists, and, our team, they're not full of hygienists and DAs and all that,
Yeah.
but just that you're willing to kind of expand
Yeah.
your expertise.
The message resonates with
Yeah.
any person, any group, any team,
Yeah.
any business. It's all the same. Everybody wants to feel like that they're looking after their team, that they're nurturing them, and that they're performing and producing at their very best. And one statistic that I absolutely love, and this came from the World Wellbeing Movement, who are based at the University of Oxford in England, is that for every 1 point increase in happiness that you get for an employee, an individual employee, you will receive a 12% increase in productivity. It's just
that incredible,
an amazing statistic. So if Laura and I can help everybody, even just 1% happier, that 12% increase in productivity, that individual is over the number of people on a team is huge.
That's a big number. Yeah, that makes it like hands down, it's worth it, because if you are, you know, an amazing organization and you've got like it's a healthy dynamic with your leadership and your, you know, your executives, all of that. And hands down, we all care about our team. That's already there. That's number one. We want to invest in them, you know, as much as we can. But the fact that the bonus is, you know, a 12% increase in productivity, I mean, that's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. And that's just the business side of it.
Right.
And there's no research that we've seen that measures what an individual employee feels for them personally. Laura and I, we know we're gathering data as we go along on that, and maybe one day we'll be at a point where we can share some, you know, good statistics on it. But it's exciting to see that, you know, well-being really now it's coming into the world, it's being recognized as a science, and it's a science because we can measure it and we can improve it. So when we work with a whole team, whether it's a small dental practice, whether it's a multi, you know, office setting, whatever, if we can measure that for the team and the business owners, then we can identify the specific areas of need and address those directly as a priority. And then just, the results will just flow from there. So
yeah, that's awesome. I believe it. We're excited. So thank you, Karen, so much for being on this podcast with me and just sharing your heart and perspective and your life with your kiddos. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you too.
Well, if you are listening or watching this podcast, I only have one request from you. Subscribe and leave a review. I know you most likely 100% have heard something brilliant that one of my guests have said. And just a reminder, this podcast is for women leaders in dentistry. It's for you. So feel free to share this episode with any of your friends or even your partner. If it's a guy, you can share this with guys too. It's fine. It doesn't have to be women. You can share it with men who support women. Yeah. Sure. So let's be fearless together, ladies, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the 27th episode of the Story Project podcast. I am really, really excited for you to, welcome to, am I recording? Let me back that up. Their holistic approach, I have a jaw thing going on, could be that. Their holistic approach blends professionally, it's impossible. As co-founder of the Mint Door, or spending time with her family. Go ahead and welcome my guest, Dr. Or spending time with her family. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. That's all I got. Oh my gosh. Signing off.